Let us pray. Most merciful God, whose wisdom is beyond our understanding, deal graciously with those who mourn Jake. Surround them with your love, that they may not be overwhelmed by their loss, but have confidence in your goodness and strength to meet the days to come. Lord, I pray that you replace sadness with precious memories, grief with your unfailing love, and pain for the loss of Jake with gladness and joy that comes from you, because your mercies are new every day. Amen.
You may be seated. want to thank the Schmidt Funeral Home, Christina, Megan, Shannon, for putting that collage of pictures together that we walked through Jake's life as a son, a brother, a father, a friend. Thank you. We're gathered here this morning to honor and celebrate the life of fallen brother Jacob Lester Lawson. It is a complete honor and privilege to assist the Lawson family, including this ceremony. We gather here as a community of friends, neighbors, brothers and sisters to honor and pay respects to Jake and his family. People are not always remembered for what they do in life, but they are remembered for how they make people feel. Jake made everyone around him feel comfortable and showed everyone how to care for one another. I had the opportunity to visit with Jake on October 29th, 2017, and had some time to share with him our relationship that we had and the many times that he beat me in fantasy football. The time that we spent at 51s as rookies. And it was nice to be able to share those stories with him and be able to communicate with him in a way that only firemen know how to. I also had the privilege of meeting with Manette, Olivia, and Brock this past weekend to share stories and memories to Jake as a husband, stepfather, and father. Jake was a man who established a foundation and a sense of security for his family and the people around him. The stories were endless, but it was very clear the bond Olivia and Brock shared. There was one thing which stuck with me. I asked both of them, was there anything you guys wanted me to share? The pause was immediate. We sipped on our Starbucks, and all of them said, in not too many words, everybody already knows him for the man he was. I couldn't agree more. From the way he treated everyone around him, it was clear you took him for who he was. Brock's correct. Everyone did know him as a solid man, a strong man, and a caring man. Earlier this week, I was able to meet Shatay, Jake's girlfriend and soulmate of the last 2.5 years. We chatted about Jake and the memories they had together. She wanted me to share a story about their second date. We can all agree that at no point did Jake ever judge anyone for anything they did. At a restaurant called Mac's Wine Dive, Shatay and Jake ordered a bottle of wine. She liked it very much. And without hesitation, Jake being the man he was, he bought a whole case for her. Second date, I might add. The irony to the simple story was the name of the bottle, Last Judgment. Wow, how ironic. The judgment he had on you and your relationship was of love and dedication. Shatay, you proved that through your support through the hard times Jake was having with his battle of cancer. Shatay, you are an extremely strong woman, and by my own account, my last judgment of you was of heart and soul you provided by helping out our brother, so thank you. I can't go out the saying a few words about the support the Westlake Fire Department and Ken Busquet, who was unable to attend today's service. Ken's selfless and efforts on spending time with him, doing the simple things like watching a game or two without saying what a great friend he is. The Westlake Fire Department, all their support to the Lawson family, and of course, his second family, Station 23D Shift, who you will be hearing from later. Now a reading from Chaplain Shelley Swarm of the Westlake Fire Department.
A reading from Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table for me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen.
We have some guest speakers today, some people that were asked to read some things and tell you a little bit about Jake. Our first reading will be from retired District Chief Dan Koppensteiner.
Good morning. Like they said, my name is Daniel Koppensteiner. I've known Jake for about 10 years. I knew him when he came to 23s as a new captain. First, I'd like to thank Jake's family, Station 23, Chief Campbell, for giving me this opportunity to speak to you today. It's really a privilege. Thank you. Like I said, Jake came to Station 23 about 10 years ago, and knowing Jake, he wanted to do things right. So when the plug list came out, Jake was going to fix it, buddy. He was going to make it right. So if that plug wasn't sitting at that exact address, he moved it. Sounds good. Problem is, next time that list comes out, what do they have? 2 plugs there. They didn't eliminate the one. Told Jake, no good deed in HFD goes unpunished. So this goes on. Don't worry about it, Chief. I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. Comes out again. What's on there? Them plugs. Go see Jake. Don't worry about it, Chief. I'll take care of it. This goes on for about 2 years. Literally 2 years. Finally, an assistant chief calls me. He says, hey, what's the deal with these hydrants at Station 23? They're not getting checked. I explained the story. New captain, trying to do what's right, and you basically screwed the guy because you left him on there for 2 years. Well, magically, they disappear. So I go over and I tell Jake, I got them plugs taken care of. I don't mind doing your job and mine too. It doesn't bother me a bit. He looks at me with that smile and he goes, yeah, right, Chief, sure. So I tell him the story of how we got them removed. You know, we all want to be the best. We all want to have the best firefighters. We want to have the best EOs, the best captains, the best chiefs, the best district. Chief Martin tried to get Captain Lawson at the time to come to 26s. Jake wouldn't go. Wouldn't leave 23s, wouldn't leave his crew. Captain Martin, same way. Wouldn't leave his crew. I told them both, I said, if he's going anywhere, he's going 20s with me. He's not going with y'all. So as our time together with Jake, I'd always go over and visit with him. And I'd spend anywhere from a half hour to an hour to just talk. And that's where I really got to know Jake. I got to know his family through him. I got to know his son, your wrestling, your football. Never saw me a day in your life, but I know about you. His brother. We talked politics. His right to my left. We talked about HFD. Buddy, if you want rumors, he rivals Charlie Martin right there on rumors. If you want to know something, go to Jake. He'll tell you. He'll tell you what's going on. We talked about our faith. We both happen to be Catholics. I said, Jake, since you live in San Antonio out here, and it takes you 3 hours to drive to work, why don't you say a rosary when you're coming to work? You know, I never thought of that, Chief. You know, I said, well, I do it with my fingers. It's just something I do. So all these years, Jake and I developed a relationship, and I know Jake. Jake wouldn't want you to be sad today. He'd want you to smile. He truly would. He wouldn't want you to cry. He'd want you to laugh. Because the Jake Lawson I know will live with me forever. It was an honor and a privilege to know him, to work with him, and to call him my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. We're going to hear from Station 23 D shift. You guys may come up.
Good morning. For those of you who know me, my name is Pete Nicodetti, and I have the honor and privilege of driving Jake for almost 8 years, which is a little bit longer than he'd been a captain with the Houston Fire Department. And I'd probably known who he was closer to 12 to 13 years. When he was a Station 7 and I was a Station 9, we'd occasionally make runs together. I remember when Jake first arrived at Station 23 after one of our first few calls in our territory in an area known as Manchester. We were walking back to the pumper, and I asked him what his plans were, whether he'd stay here or go back downtown where he'd worked most of his career. He said he wasn't sure. So we got back in the pumper. And as we're fixing to leave, a lady walks up to us and knocks on his door. And he rolls down the window, and she gives him an elote en vaso, which is corn in a cup. So he looks at it, and then he looks at me, and I said, "Try it." I said, "You'll like it." So he did, and he ate it all the way back to the station. And I could tell he liked the territory. Then after a few months of everyone getting to know each other, getting to know how everybody's quirks were, I remembered our Cascade chauffeur, Gilbert Ramirez, who'd probably been at the station over 25, 27 years. And you probably didn't think that I heard you, but I did. He said, "You know, I've been here at this station X amount of years, and I've yet to see a crew work and get along like this." It made me feel good. I don't know if Captain Jake heard you or not, but I'm sure he knew. To have a captain like that guys look forward to, coming to work for and giving them everything they have, that's the kind of leadership Jake would bring every day to the station with him. He was the type of captain, type of leader that would never ask anything of you that he was not ready and willing to do himself. He always led from the front, never from the rear. And I'm going to assume that was from his military experience as an officer in the Army, as y'all saw. He always took great pride in working with prior service guys, prior service firefighters, even the Coast Guard. From Chief K's inspections to Monday apparatus days, Tuesday station days, Friday yard days, he was always out there with the silver badges, helping out in any way he could. He also never worried about what was going on downtown with our issues with City Hall. He'd just look at me and say, Pete, let's just take care of business here. Control what we can control here in our little corner of the world. While we made calls, he was the type of captain that would use every avenue of transportation for non-critical patients, from getting the patient to call family members, maybe use their personal car, or use the Ethan program before he'd utilize the HFD ambulance. Sometimes, or most of the time, we'd be on scene 30 to 40 minutes before every avenue was exhausted. And then he'd look at me and say, Pete, I think I'm going to have to call for an ambulance. And I'd give him this look, like, Captain, we should have called for one 30 minutes ago. When we check plugs, the guys can tell you, before we left the station, he'd say, get the gauge. He put the gauge on every plug. And on the fire ground, those who work in District 20 and 26, both the B and the D shift, they can attest that his work ethic speaks for itself. The Houston Fire Department is weaker today and also has big boots to fill. I'm going to go back to what a senior captain at Station 26 once said. Being a fireman is not something that is learned in the classroom or read in the textbook. It's either you have it or you don't when you enter the fire service. Captain Jake had it. Brock, your daddy's going to be missed. We all loved him. And he was a brother to all of us. Thank you.
Well said, Station 23. Good job. We'll be hearing from retired Captain Tom Munoz of Station 23, the Coastie.
Good morning. As Pete so eloquently said, I am the Coast Guard member that Captain Lawson and Pete, and up to this day we still have a debate whether Pete had a table that had all the patches, and one day Captain Lawson mentioned, notice the Coast Guard's not on there, and Pete looked at us and tried to convince us that we didn't matter, but as Captain Lawson said, don't worry, Captain, one day he might be drowning and he'll call you. So I had the strength and privilege of working with Captain Lawson at Station 23's, where he and I were the oncoming captains to each other's perspective shifts. When Pete called and asked me if I could speak today, I immediately started to reflect about Jake. As in times like this, where do you start to capture the greatness a person brings into this world? I was struggling for words as my thoughts and prayers were full of emotion and pain, and I started talking to my wife about Jake. And I say this highly, Captain Lawson. I proceeded to tell her how Captain Lawson was the epitome of bravery, dedication, and commitment. How he not only served and protected our great country, but the great city of Houston. And he continued to work with Westlake as well. How I remember how he indirectly raised the bar for everyone around him. he was a perfect illustration of how great leaders lead by example. I told her how it was obvious that he truly loved the fire department, his crew, his district, his family, the love he had for his son, Brock. How his love and commitment and dedication to the Houston Fire Department was so great that 3 weeks ago, when I called him from Puerto Rico, because unbeknownst to Pete, we do get deployed, he told me he would be back at work soon. That is the Jake I know, dedicated and committed. I remember my wife looking at me and saying, "Sounds like those words say it all." My wife is not able to attend today and is not here, so I can bravely disagree with her. You see, these are only but a fraction of the words that can describe who Captain Lawson was. He was a brother, a friend, and a confidant to a lot of us in the room, including myself. I remember he was the first person other than my wife who knew I had made the decision to retire. It was one of the hardest decisions I had ever made, and it still is. But he's the one I turn to for advice. Through those discussions, I know he made me a better person by reminding me that sometimes you have to step out of the comfort zone to see some amazing awards and rewards. I remember the talks we had about his son, Brock, and I was always in awe of the love and pride he had for you. Those conversations, he made me understand the importance of quantity versus quality time. He made me realize that little things do matter, whether in life or at the fire station. Everything he did, from checking his radio every morning to, and those that knew him, making sure that his boots were shiny. And that's one thing that always amazed us. He was like to a T, and we would look at him, and I remember all of us are trying to spit shine our shoes, but we can never do such a good job. His uniform was immaculate, and as Pete mentioned, he led by example, always leading by example, to make sure he left him plenty of time to see Brock's football games. It was the small things, the attention to detail that made him stand out as a great leader he is and was. You always knew that when Captain Lawson was around, everything was going to be all right, and everyone was going to come home safely. That's who he was. I remember as we talked about our boys in the morning, because like clockwork, you could hear his truck pull up about 5:45, get the coffee ready, even though he probably didn't drink it. And we would meet up in the morning at 6 in the morning, and he'd be the first person I'd see, and talked about our sons as we always did. And I was telling him, you know, Cap, my son's at that age now. I think he's growing up. He started recognizing that now he's combing his hair and he wants to lose weight. Is there a diet you could help me with? And of course, those that knew Jake knew that you just didn't want to stand next to Jake, because I always tell him you look like before and after picture of what it should look like. And so he talked to my son and the diets and what not to do, and then he told me, you know, Cap, I do cheat on my diet once in a while. You know, those that know Pete, he's an excellent cook, and he says, and Pete works with my diet. He cooks, you know, so I could eat. And I know how Pete cooks. And I said, so Captain, what does that consist of? Does he get your egg whites and cook them in bacon oil, or what does he do? And he's like, sometimes, but it gives it a good flavor. But those are the funny things, attention to detail. However, the one thing I'll truly always remember about Captain Lawson is the true love he had for his family, for Brock, for Satay, for his friends around him, and more importantly, his profession as a firefighter. You know, guys, like Chief said, we too had the discussion about promotion in the mornings. And we talked about the senior exam, the last one, and I said, Captain, you going to study? And he looked at me and he said, you know, I have it great. Great crew, great district, great chief. Sometimes some things are good. And he goes, and why ruin a good thing? Guys, I can honestly tell you, as Chief mentioned, he truly, truly loved you. I know that he talked about when he worked downtown and how he learned so much. But the love he had for everyone was truly there. Mr. and Mrs. Lawson family, Brock, Chate. I know that everyone in this room is truly blessed to have been in Jake's presence. Please know that he truly made this world a better place, and all of us better people. You had a truly amazing son, father, brother, boyfriend, who will never be forgotten. Cam Lawson, Jake. With this world being what it is today, God needed the bravest, most dedicated, committed warriors to help watch over us and make sure that the crews go home safely every night, every morning. And you're definitely the best. I know you'll be watching over us every day. And knowing that, I know we will make sure that our boots are shined and our uniforms in tip-top order. And as we used to tell each other in the morning, Captain, we got this. Thank you, brother. We love you and you'll never be forgotten.
Thanks, Kevin. Before we go on, I'd like those firemen that are in the back to come up here at this empty pew before we start the fire department honors. Y'all come back. Come sit down up here. Thank you all. Your warm support for Jake and his family is much appreciated. We will always remember the fireman's prayer. When I'm called to duty, God, whatever flames may rage, give me the strength to save a life, whatever that be age. Let me embrace a little child before it's too late, or save an older person from the horror of that fate. Enable me to be alert and hear the weakened shout, and quickly and efficiently put that fire out. I want to fill my calling. I want to give the best in me to guard my friends and neighbors and protect their property. And if according to your will, while on duty I must answer death's call, bless your protection hand, my family one and all. Jake was a veteran of the U.S. Army as a second lieutenant. We will now watch the presentation of the American flag will be presented to Jake's mother, Miss Sally Lawson, by the Houston Fire Department Honor Guard members. It is the fire department tradition to present family with the fire department gifts. I would now like to ask members of our command staff, please come up to the front. These men and women represent our command staff of the Houston Fire Department. A fire department badge is earned by promotion a member has received. Jake earned and wore his badge proudly as a captain of the Houston Fire Department, a leader of his engine crew, a first-line supervisor at the station level, and to his crew on all fireground operations. Assistant Chief Michael Meir will retire Captain Lawson's badge to his brother Matt. I'd like to thank the command staff for being present at this funeral service and celebration of life for Captain Jake Lawson. Thank you. Our Union Bible. Miss Lawson, you did say you raised him right as a Union member. The Union Bible will be presented to his son Brock by our president, Local 341, Marty Langton. The Texas flag, flown over our Houston Firefighters Relief and Retirement Pension Building, will be presented to Jake's father, Carl Lawson, by one of our Honor Guard members. The red captain's helmet. This helmet rode on engine every single day in the last weeks of Jake's life. His red captain's helmet will be presented to his son Brock by the crew of Station 23 D shift. The men and women of today's fire service are confronted with more dangerous work environment than ever before. We are forced to continually change our strategies and tactics to accomplish our task. Our methods may have changed, but our goals remain the same as they were in the past, to save lives and to protect property, sometimes at a terrible cost. This is what we do. This is our chosen profession. This is the tradition of a firefighter. This fire service is steeped in tradition over 200 years old. One such tradition is the sound of the bell. In the past, as firefighters began their tour of duty, it was the sound of the bell that signaled to all firefighters the beginning of their day's shift. Throughout the day and night, the bell could be heard, summoning these brave souls to fight fires and to place their lives in jeopardy for the good of their fellow citizen. When the fire was out and the alarm had come to an end, it was the bell that toned 7 times, followed by 1 tone, which signaled to all the completion of their assignment and to return to quarters and await their next assignment. We utilize these traditions as symbols that reflect honor and respect to those who have given so much and who will serve so well. To symbolize the devotion of Jake's brave soul had for his duty, signal 7-1 will be rung, which will represent Captain Lawson's completion of his assignment on earth and return to his quarters in heaven, where he shall await his next assignment. In today's time, we utilize modern technology to substitute the tone of the bell. Handheld radios are used. In a moment, our Office of Emergency Center will tone out Captain Lawson's farewell message. At the end of this message, Houston firefighters' pipes and drums will play Amazing Grace, the traditional hymn honor our fallen firefighters. OEC, this is 806. We're ready for the farewell message for Captain Jake Lawson.
The members of the Houston Fire Department regret the loss of Jakob Lawson, an active captain and paramedic who proudly served 16 years, 7 months, and 11 days of dedicated service to the citizens of Houston and the Houston Fire Department. Captain Lawson was currently assigned to Station 23 on the D Delta shift, where he served with courage, commitment, and compassion. Captain Lawson, you are a dedicated member within the Houston Fire Department and will be truly missed. Your legacy will not be forgotten and will continue in the hearts of those you touched. Farewell, Jake. November 9th, 2017, KTZ 377, Fire Department, Houston.
Chaplain Swarm will provide our closing prayer.
Gracious Father, just as Jesus told the thief on the cross, today you shall be with me in paradise. We take comfort in knowing that Jake is with you today. As those who love him mourn the loss, may you comfort them, bless them with wonderful, fond memories. May you bring peace in the days to come and the hope that one day all who believe in you will be reunited with Jake in your kingdom. Amen.
Firefighters, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending this memorial service. We are invited to attend a reception provided by the Westlake Volunteer Fire Department at their Central Station with the Lawson family. On behalf of the Lawson family, thank you for attending and your gracious support. Please remain seated and you'll be dismissed. All uniformed personnel, attend. Whoo! Present arms.